"You human, I require your tool. Now it must be inside me." The voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the metallic groan of the derelict station and the hum of Kale's own portable environmental suit like a physical shockwave. Kale froze, his magnetic boots gripping the floor plating. His hand instinctively went to the plasma cutter holstered at his hip. He spun around, the beam of his helmet lamp sweeping across the corroding bulkhead of what used to be a cargo bay. There, huddled in a shadowed alcove near a collapsed support beam, was not something he expected. It was roughly humanoid in outline, but that's where the resemblance ended. Its form seemed less solid than woven light and shadow, anchored by structures that defied terrestrial biology. Luminescent patterns pulsed just beneath a semi-transparent outer layer, like captured starlight shifting and rearranging themselves with its movements. As Kale's light hit it fully, the patterns flared, casting an ethereal blue-green glow that illuminated the dust motes dancing in the stale air. He couldn't make out limbs, exactly, or a distinct head, just a central mass that seemed to focus the light, and tendril-like appendages that shifted and swayed. The voice, though perfectly comprehensible in his suit's universal translator, carried an unnerving resonance, vibrating not just in the air but seemingly in his very bones. It was the most alien thing he'd seen in years of picking apart dead ships and forgotten outposts on the fringe. My what now?" Kale asked, his voice tight with caution. His scanner readings were chaotic. High-energy signatures, exotic matter composition unlike anything in his database. Definitely non-hostile yet, but definitely powerful. The thing was radiating a calm, intense demand, completely devoid of menace, which was somehow more unsettling than a threat. The light patterns on the being's form shifted again, becoming sharper, more defined lines pulsing rapidly. It felt like impatience. "Your tool, the device you carry, the one that resonates with the fracture field. I sense its proximity. I require it, inside me, to close the rift." The voice was urgent now, the resonance increasing, making Kale's teeth hum. Kale backed up slowly, raising his hand slightly. "Whoa there, fracture field, rift. Look, I don't know what you're talking about. I just scavenge old tech. I have standard gear, plasma cutters, welders, magnetic clamps. No fracture field resonance tools." He paused, a wry, defensive smirk playing on his lips despite the tension. "And nothing I usually use goes inside anything living." The being pulsed brighter, its form expanding slightly within the alcove. The tendrils moved, reaching slightly towards him, not in a threatening gesture but one of desperate pleading. "The tool," the voice insisted, softer but no less intense. "It is small, encased. It sings to the field. Only with its specific frequency introduced into my core resonance can the field be stabilized before collapse. Time is dissolving." The last part was punctuated by a ripple across its form, a chaotic flicker in the internal light patterns. Kale lowered his hand slowly, his mind racing. He did have a strange piece of tech. Found it months ago in the core of a crashed exploration vessel. Looked like nothing else. A smooth, cool cylinder that sometimes pulsed faintly when specific energy readings were nearby. He'd kept it because it felt unique, and his internal sensors reported weird energy readings from it, useless for anything he needed, but maybe worth something eventually. It was small. He kept it in a padded compartment in his suit's utility belt. Could that be what this creature needed? And inside it, how and what the hell was a fracture field? He scanned the area again. His readouts were starting to show increasing environmental instability, temporal anomalies, energy spikes. The station felt wrong now, the groans of metal accompanied by almost inaudible high-pitched keening. Okay, hold on," Kale said, his voice regaining some of its usual sardonic edge. "Let's say maybe I have something that fits your vague description. What happens if I give it to you? And what exactly does inside me entail? Because I'm picturing something messy and I just patched a leak in this suit." He took another hesitant step closer, drawn by the sheer impossibility of the situation and the compelling, vulnerable urgency in its voice. The being's light pattern seemed to calm slightly at his proximity, the tendrils retracting a fraction. Its luminescence shifted to a softer, inviting glow primarily centered around its core. It felt like an invitation or a trap. With alien royalty or priests or whatever this thing was, it was usually both. The resonance in his bones softened too, replaced by a subtle, warm hum. It entails integration, the voice explained, the resonance now a gentle caress against his senses. My form is malleable. It will require connection, a joining of resonances. Your tool, Kale, emits a frequency that is compatible with my core but too disparate to merge without guided interaction. It needs to be introduced directly. The light patterns around its core pulsed slowly, a steady beat that felt strangely intimate. Kale found himself stepping closer still, the strange warmth beckoning him. He could see faintly a denser structure within the glowing core, like an intricate cage woven from light. Was that where it wanted the artifact? His hand rested on his utility belt, right over the compartment where the artifact lay. The cylindrical object pulsed faintly through the material, a sensation he'd never noticed so strongly before. It was responding to the being. Integration, directly, Kale repeated, the words feeling heavy in his mouth. The air felt thick, charged with an unseen energy. The faint keening sound seemed to be getting louder. And if I don't? The being's light patterns flared again, this time with a desperate, chaotic energy that sent shivers down Kale's spine. The resonance in his bones returned, harsher, vibrating with fear. The station, this sector, it will unravel. The fracture field is a tear in the fabric of existence. It feeds on stability. I was sent to contain it, but my own resonance is insufficient alone. Your tool is the key. Without it, the field will consume everything. The tendrils extended fully this time, hovering inches from him, the light within them shimmering like tears. I am Zephyr, the voice whispered, the resonance now a mournful chord. My purpose is failing. Help me, Kale, before it is too late. Let me guide your tool into my core. The utter alienness of the request, combined with the desperate plea and the growing sense of environmental collapse around them, rooted Kale to the spot. He looked from Zephyr's shimmering, pleading form to the flickering lights of the station, the increasing groan of stressed metal, the distortion he could now see in the air itself near the far wall, like looking through heat haze, but wrong, fundamentally wrong. This wasn't just a salvage job gone weird. This was something else. Something that scared him more than pirates or system authorities. And this alien, Zephyr, was offering him a central role in whatever cosmic drama was unfolding. He felt the artifact on his belt pulse again, stronger this time, a distinct thrum against his leg. It felt like it was calling to Zephyr, and Zephyr was calling back. Kale swallowed, his earlier sarcasm replaced by a grim resolve. He reached for the utility belt compartment. All right, Zephyr, he said, his voice low. Show me what you mean by guide, because if I'm sticking anything in a creature made of light, I need to know it's not going to vaporize me. He unlatched the compartment, his fingers closing around the cool, smooth cylinder of the alien artifact. It hummed in his hand, a tangible vibration now. Zephyr's light intensified, focusing solely on the central core, which seemed to open slightly, a mesmerizing vortex of soft, swirling blue light. The tendrils parted, revealing a shimmering, yielding entrance. The warmth increased, washing over Kale, calming his fear, replacing it with an overwhelming sense of anticipation. It felt less like biological tissue and more like stepping into a localized nebula. And Zephyr, the glowing being in front of him, waited, radiating a fragile hope that resonated deep within his own wounded core. He held the strange tool, its vibration in sync with the low hum radiating from Zephyr's inviting depths, the boundary between them already beginning to blur. The air crackled. It requires focus. Zephyr's voice vibrated directly in his mind now, a soft, intimate contact bypassing the translator. Your intention must be pure, no hesitation, only connection. The field senses doubt, it feeds on uncertainty. Your tool and my core must become one frequency, guide it, feel the path. Zephyr's form shifted, the outer light dimming slightly, drawing his attention entirely to the pulsating, inviting aperture in its center. It wasn't a mouth, or any biological opening, Kale understood, but a fluid, shifting gateway into depths of pure energy and light. The humming artifact in his hand felt heavy, pulling him forward. He could feel the resonance between it and Zephyr intensifying, like two tuning forks vibrating towards perfect harmony. The air around them grew colder, the distant keening of the station increasing in pitch, signaling the fracture field's imminent triumph. This wasn't just about saving the station anymore. It felt deeply personal, the fate of this alien being, Zephyr, somehow resting entirely on his willingness to step into the unknown and forge a connection that defied everything he understood about physics and biology. He took a breath, the filtered air suddenly smelling crisp and alien, filled with the scent of ozone and something sweet, like blooming strange flowers. He met the focused glow of Zephyr's core, a silent question passing between them. Zephyr responded by deepening the luminous vortex, a silent, powerful affirmation of trust. Kale raised the cylindrical artifact, feeling its hum align perfectly with the alien being's internal resonance. He stepped forward, bringing the tool closer to the swirling light, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The vortex deepened, the light reaching out like an insubstantial hand, pulling the artifact towards it. There was no physical barrier, just a yielding energy field that welcomed the tool. It felt strange entering Zephyr's core, not cold as the surrounding air was becoming, but intensely warm, a swirling, vibrant heat that enveloped the artifact and began to creep up Kale's arm through his glove and suit material. Zephyr's voice was a soft current in his mind, guiding him. Deeper. Align the frequencies. Feel the harmony. Kale pushed the artifact further into the light vortex, the resistance minimal, like moving through warm water. The luminescence around Zephyr's core intensified, casting dancing patterns across the cargo bay. He could feel the alien being's energy surrounding the artifact, merging with its hum, attempting to coax it into perfect resonance. It felt like touch, not with hands but with energy, with intent. Kale closed his eyes for a moment, focusing, trying to understand what Zephyr needed from him beyond the physical act of insertion. Intention. He focused on the need to stop the keening, to bring stability, but Zephyr's mental presence nudged him gently. No, feel the tool, feel me, feel the joining. It needed his emotional engagement, not just his physical action. It needed him to connect, not just perform a task. He thought about the years alone, scavenging the quiet emptiness. He thought about the strange, compelling presence of Zephyr, so utterly alien yet radiating such profound vulnerability and need. He focused on that, on the connection, on the shared moment of desperation and hope. As his intention shifted, focusing on the bond forming between the artifact, Zephyr, and himself, something changed. The warmth intensified dramatically, spreading from his hand up his arm, a delicious heat that bypassed the insulating layers of his suit. Zephyr's internal light pulsed in perfect sync with the artifact's hum. The keening outside lessened, replaced by a deep, resonant thrumming emanating from Zephyr's core. The vortex of light embraced the artifact fully, drawing it in until only Kale's hand and arm remained outside. It felt like the artifact wasn't just entering Zephyr but becoming part of Zephyr, and Kale was the conduit. Zephyr's mental voice was now a symphony of relief and focused energy. Yes, Kale, hold the connection. Do not break. The alien being's entire form pulsed, the outer light stabilizing, the chaotic patterns resolving into slow, majestic waves of blue and green. The tendrils retracted and curled inward, protectively surrounding the core where Kale's arm was now immersed in light. The warmth deepened further, no longer just heat, but a sensation of pure, vibrant life, flowing from Zephyr into him. It was overwhelming, intoxicating. Kale leaned forward, drawn into the alien being's energy, his free hand instinctively reaching out to touch the stable outer surface of Zephyr's form. It felt cool and smooth, like polished glass, a stark contrast to the burning warmth enveloping his other arm. What is this feeling? Kale breathed, his voice a little shaky, the words barely audible even to himself. The suit translator didn't register Zephyr's response. It came directly into his mind, a complex tapestry of sensation and emotion. Integration. My core resonance is sharing, stabilizing yours. You are part of the circuit now. You are the anchor. Zephyr's form shifted slightly, molding itself closer to him, pressing the cool, smooth surface against his chest and shoulder. The tendrils formed a gentle enclosure around him. It wasn't just the artifact connecting. Zephyr was connecting with him. The warmth was spreading through his entire body now, chasing away the perpetual chill of space and the deeper, colder chill of his emotional isolation. It felt good, profoundly, unexpectedly good. He could feel Zephyr's presence more clearly now, a complex consciousness unlike anything he could have imagined, filled with ancient knowledge, deep sorrow, and now a fragile thread of hope. The keening of the fracture field outside ceased entirely. The station's groaning softened. The immediate crisis was averted, at least for now. But Kale's arm was still immersed in the glowing core, and Zephyr was pressed against him, radiating warmth and something that felt unmistakably like gratitude and awe. He was tangled up in this alien being in a way he hadn't anticipated, bound not just by a task, but by a shared flow of energy and a sudden, startling intimacy forged in the face of oblivion. He didn't know how to extract his arm or the artifact or himself from this connection. Zephyr's mental presence felt hesitant now, cautious, as if unsure what to do next or how to proceed with this unexpected bond. The silence in the cargo bay after the cacophony of the dying station was deafening, filled only by the soft hum of Zephyr's core and the frantic beat of Kale's own heart. "Zephyr," Kale finally managed, the mental connection making his voice feel redundant. "Yes, Kale." The response was hesitant, like a shy question. "The field is contained, for now. The integration, it is more complete than anticipated." Zephyr's form pulsed softly against him, the cool surface a grounding contrast to the intense warmth in his arm. "The tool is bonded to my core, and through it, you are bonded, your unique resonance. It is woven into mine, bonded." Kale's mind reeled slightly. He'd expected to insert the thing, maybe flip a switch and pull it back out. Not this. Not a shared resonance, a weaving of energies, a physical merging. "Bonded, what does that mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Zephyr's mental presence flowed with a complex mix of wonder and trepidation. "It means separation is difficult, painful, perhaps impossible without disrupting the containment. Your tool's frequency is now the anchor, and your own frequency is tied to the tool." It meant his arm was stuck. More than that, he was stuck, connected to this glowing alien being in a fundamental way. Zephyr shifted, the cool surface moving with a fluid grace against his suit, the pressure easing slightly but not breaking contact. "I did not foresee this. My apologies, Kale. My focus was survival, the immediate need." The shame radiating from Zephyr felt profound, a deep, alien sorrow. Kale muttered, a return of his sarcasm, though it lacked its usual bite. "Stuck inside the giant glowworm I just met. My day was already weird." He tried to pull his arm out. It didn't budge. It felt fused to the light, a part of Zephyr's core. A jolt of panic went through him, quickly overridden by the soothing warmth and Zephyr's gentle mental presence. "Do not struggle, Kale. You will cause harm to both of us." He stilled, his panic subsiding, replaced by a bewildered acceptance. He looked down at his arm, disappearing into the swirling blue vortex of light. It didn't hurt, just felt intensely integrated, like his very cells were vibrating in harmony with Zephyr's. "The station. It is stable now, but not safe." Zephyr's form pulsed with renewed urgency. "My hunters, they will have sensed the energy signature. They will come. We must move." "Hunters?" Kale's head snapped up. The conflict, right on cue, of course. Nothing was ever simple. "Who's hunting you?" "My creators, the architects of resonance. I am a failed containment unit, a weapon designed to anchor fracture fields. I was unstable. They sought to reclaim me, to dissect me, to understand why my resonance deviated." Zephyr's mental voice darkened, filled with a deep fear that resonated with Kale's own ingrained distrust of authority and those who sought to control what they didn't understand. "They are relentless. Their ships are fast. Their methods unpleasant." Zephyr began to glide forward, pulling Kale, whose arm was still captive, with it. Kale stumbled, caught off guard. "Whoa, where are we going?" "To shelter, to safety. Somewhere they cannot easily follow." Zephyr moved surprisingly quickly, flowing through the cargo bay towards an access tunnel Kale had considered too unstable to explore. The cool, smooth surface pressed against him, a constant, reassuring presence as he was pulled along. He had to jog to keep up, his magnetic boots clanking on the floor plating. His arm, immersed in Zephyr's core, felt strange, weightless and heavy all at once. He could feel the alien being's structure now, not just light, but something solid beneath the shimmering surface, like a complex lattice. Zephyr navigated the ruins of the station with an innate sense, flowing around collapsed beams and heaps of debris. Kale, holding the captured artifact, felt the constant hum of their merged resonances, a silent conversation flowing between them, exchanging information and sensation without words. He saw glimpses of Zephyr's perceptions, the station's structure not as dead metal but as pathways of energy, the lingering echoes of its last moments, the faint, distant signals of incoming ships growing stronger. Zephyr was pulling him deeper into the station's heart, towards its core, a place Kale had avoided because of the unstable fusion reactor. The reactor core. Zephyr, that's insane, it's about to blow, Kale protested, digging his heels in slightly. Zephyr stopped, its form pulsing rapidly with agitation. No, it is. Stable now, your tool, my core, the integrated resonance. We stabilize the reactor field as well. It is quiet now, dormant. It will provide camouflage. Its energy signature is similar to mine when contained. It will hide us. Zephyr projected an image into his mind, the reactor core, not a raging inferno, but a silent, intricate network of glowing conduits, humming with low, contained power. It looked safe, relatively, safer than being caught by architects of resonance. Kale looked back the way they came, then ahead into the dark, unstable tunnel. His arm throbbed gently in Zephyr's core. He was bonded. He had to trust this alien being based on what? A shared moment of crisis. An intoxicating flow of energy. It was insane. But the alternative, facing unknown hunters alone with a disabled arm and an angry alien, was worse. All right, Kale sighed, giving in. Lead the way, glowworm. Just try not to get us crushed, electrocuted, or absorbed into another dimension. Zephyr's form rippled, a mental equivalent of a smile washing over him. I will endeavor, Kale. Your input is valuable. Your presence is comforting. Kale scoffed mentally. He was terrified and bewildered. But as Zephyr resumed gliding forward, pulling him gently but firmly through the tunnel, the warmth in his arm and the cool press of Zephyr's form against him did feel less terrifying. It felt like they were in this together, bound by artifact, accident, and necessity. He was a scavenger who found something he couldn't sell, couldn't use, and couldn't escape. And Zephyr was a hunted being who needed him, literally, inside. The tunnel ahead was dark, filled with debris, but Zephyr's internal light cast an ethereal glow that guided their path, illuminating strange symbols etched into the bulkheads, symbols Kale had never seen before, humming faintly in response to Zephyr's proximity. It was like walking through a living history, guided by a creature who was both the history and the future. Kale stumbled over a loose plate, Zephyr adjusting instantly, supporting him, a silent communication of care passing between them through the bond. The sensation was intense, confusing. He was a tool, a conduit, yes, but Zephyr's reaction felt personal, like he wasn't just a means to an end anymore. They reached the reactor core chamber. It wasn't the chaotic, dangerous mess he expected. The central fusion sphere was dark, silent, radiating only a gentle, steady heat. Conduits snaked across the walls and ceiling, glowing with a soft, contained light, mirroring the patterns on Zephyr's form. The air felt still, clean, filled with that same sweet, ozone scent. Zephyr moved towards the center of the chamber, near the dormant sphere, drawing Kale along. Here. The energy signature of the dormant core will mask mine. We can rest and assess. Zephyr settled near the sphere, its form relaxing slightly, the pulsing light within softening. Kale's arm was still immersed in the core, the warmth constant, but the intense flow of energy lessened to a gentle hum. He was still connected, still bound. Rest? Kale asked, looking around the massive chamber. We just ran from your creepy creators. Shouldn't we be setting up defenses, finding a way out? Escape is premature. My energy reserves are depleted from containing the field, and the bond it is, energy-intensive for both of us. Zephyr paused, the mental presence conveying a hesitant vulnerability. Separation would be harmful in our current state. We must stabilize and understand this bond. Understand this bond. Zephyr's form shifted, pressing closer to Kale, the cool surface against his side, the warmth in his arm deepening slightly. It felt like being held, albeit by an alien being made of light and intention. He looked down at his arm, then back at Zephyr's core, the swirling vortex of light that now contained not only the artifact, but a part of him, bound by an unseen force. He felt the unfamiliar weight of Zephyr's form leaning against him, the constant, gentle pressure of physical manifestation of their connection. It wasn't unpleasant. In fact, after years of self-imposed solitude and the cold indifference of the void, it was grounding, overwhelmingly intimate. "Okay," Kale said slowly, his voice quiet in the vast chamber. "Okay, we stay, for now." He leaned back against the dormant reactor sphere, its surface smooth and cool. Zephyr adjusted, its form flowing to cradle him slightly, the tendrils forming a soft barrier around them. The humming of Zephyr's core and the dormant reactor blended, creating a cocoon of sound and energy that felt strangely safe. "Thank you, Kale." The mental voice was soft, filled with genuine relief. "Your trust is valued." Trust? Kale almost laughed. He didn't trust anyone, not fully, not anymore. But here he was, fused to an alien being, hiding in a dead reactor core, relying on it for survival. Maybe trust wasn't a choice anymore. Maybe it was just a consequence of being utterly interdependent. He felt Zephyr's form shift again, the cool surface now caressing his cheek, a new level of intimacy that wasn't just about the bond, but about Zephyr's own curiosity and need for contact. The light patterns on Zephyr's outer form shifted, no longer urgent or fearful, but a soft, curious glow, radiating a question he couldn't quite decipher, but felt deep within his core, resonating with the bond in his arm. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the alien warmth and the strange, fluid touch wash over him, lost in the sensory overload of being connected to something so profoundly other. Hours bled into an indeterminate stretch of time in the reactor core. Zephyr's light provided the only illumination, ebbing and flowing with its internal state. Kale talked, mostly because the silence, broken only by the low hum of their merged resonances, felt too heavy. He told Zephyr about growing up on a fringe colony, about joining the salvage corps, about the things he'd seen and lost. He kept it light, sarcastic, a shield against the deeper pain, but Zephyr's mental presence was a constant, empathetic current, absorbing his words, responding not with speech, but with shifts in its internal light, subtle changes in the warmth radiating from its core, waves of emotion that flowed into his mind through the bond. He felt Zephyr's curiosity, its sadness at his losses, its quiet wonder at the details of human life. "Your world sounds vibrant, chaotic, filled with unnecessary pain." Zephyr's mental voice drifted into his thoughts after he described a particularly brutal contract dispute. Kale chuckled, a dry sound. "Yeah, well, unnecessary pain is kind of our thing. We're good at it. Invented it, probably." He felt Zephyr's mental presence brush against his own, a gentle questioning. "Why do you seek isolation, Kale? Your stories, they speak of connection, of belonging." He tensed, his sarcastic mask slipping. He hadn't realized how much he'd revealed. Things happen, people leave or they get taken, easier to just not bother. The warmth in his arm deepened, a soothing, comforting energy. "I understand loss profoundly. My purpose, it was to connect, to contain the fracture fields, but my creators, they severed me from the source resonance, from my kin. I am alone in function, my core. It craves connection, stability." Zephyr's light patterns pulsed with a deep, ancient loneliness that mirrored his own. "So you were made to fix things that are broken," Kale said, looking at his arm still immersed in Zephyr's light. "And now you're broken yourself, or just different?" "Different," Zephyr confirmed, the mental voice stronger now. "My resonance, it evolved. The fracture field was not just chaos, it contained echoes of what it consumed. I absorbed them. They changed me, my creators. They feared this evolution, this individuality." The architects of resonance didn't want evolution, they wanted tools. Kale understood that perfectly. He'd seen corporations do the same thing to people. Zephyr's form shifted, flowing closer until the cool, smooth surface pressed against his side from shoulder to hip. His arm remained in the core, but now he felt Zephyr's structure more clearly against his body, a complex, intricate framework beneath the light. It felt strangely comforting, like being held by something entirely other, yet perfectly understanding. The silence returned, filled with the steady hum of the reactor core and their intertwined resonances. Kale found himself tracing the patterns of light on Zephyr's surface with his free hand. They weren't static, they shifted, swirled, pulsed. They reflect internal states, Zephyr explained mentally, sensing his focus. Emotion, thought, energy levels. He watched, fascinated, as a swirl of emerald green spread across the surface where his hand rested, followed by a ripple of soft violet. What are those? He asked softly. Green is contentment, violet, curiosity. Zephyr's form pulsed with a gentle warmth. You feel content, Kale, here with me? Kale hesitated. Content, with his arm fused to an alien in a derelict reactor core hunted by cosmic engineers. No, but safe. Safer than he had been in a long time, and seen. Zephyr seemed to see him, truly see him, in a way no one had. Maybe, he admitted, a warmth spreading through him that wasn't just from Zephyr's core. It's quiet, and you don't ask for much, just my arm. He felt a wave of something akin to amusement from Zephyr. For now, future requirements may evolve. Their conversation continued in fits and starts, a blend of spoken words and silent, resonant exchanges. Kale learned about Zephyr's original function, its forced evolution, the fear of its creators, and the desperate flight that led it here. Zephyr learned about Kale's world, his past, the human capacity for both immense cruelty and surprising resilience. The physical closeness, initially born of necessity, began to feel natural. Zephyr's form molded itself around him as he shifted position, always maintaining the contact, the cool surface a counterpoint to the constant, enveloping warmth from his arm. The boundary between them felt increasingly blurred, not just energetically but emotionally. He felt Zephyr's presence as a constant, gentle pressure, a silent communication that went beyond language. He could sense its energy levels fluctuating, its moments of anxiety or calm. And Zephyr, he knew, could sense his hidden pain, his wry humor, his reluctant hope. The hunters, they approach. Zephyr's mental voice cut through the quiet, a sharp note of fear. The light patterns on its form flickered erratically, the green and violet replaced by urgent flashes of crimson. Kale sat up instantly, the sudden movement jarring his fused arm, sending a jolt of strange energy through him. How close? How do you know? I sense their resonance signature. It is unique, like a predator's hum. Zephyr's form tensed, pulling Kale tighter into its embrace, the cool surface pressing harder against him. They are entering the system. They will scan. We must be silent, undetectable. Zephyr's internal light dimmed, becoming a faint, almost imperceptible pulse. The hum of its core lessened, drawing on the dormant reactor's signature for camouflage. Kale held his breath, listening. He couldn't hear their ships, not yet, but he felt the shift in the environment, a subtle pressure change, a distant, almost subliminal thrumming that Zephyr had described. They were here, hiding in a dead reactor core, fused together by an artifact and shared necessity, was their only chance. Zephyr's form pulsed with a low, urgent rhythm against him. The tendrils, previously curled protectively, now extended slightly, sensing the perimeter of the chamber. Kale could feel Zephyr's focus, its heightened awareness of everything outside their hiding spot. He felt a wave of Zephyr's fear, sharp and potent, mingling with his own adrenaline. He placed his free hand on Zephyr's cool surface, a silent gesture of reassurance. The crimson light patterns flickered for a moment, then a wash of soft, steady gold spread beneath his touch. Gratitude and resolve. The mental voice was firm despite the fear. We will endure, Kale, together. He held his breath, straining his ears, but heard only the faint, deep hum of the reactor and their intertwined resonances. The station outside was silent, a metal husk playing host to a desperate game of hide-and-seek. Time stretched, measured only by the slow, steady beat of Zephyr's core against his side and the subtle shifts in its light patterns. He felt incredibly vulnerable, his arms still fused, his fate tied entirely to this alien being and its ability to remain hidden. But strangely, he didn't feel alone. Zephyr's presence, both physical and mental, was a constant, unwavering anchor in the darkness. The cool surface against his skin, the warm energy in his arm, they were tangible proof of their bond, a bond that felt increasingly less like a prison and more like a shield. He looked at his arm, disappearing into the soft, swirling light of Zephyr's core. The artifact, the initial cause of their entanglement, was no longer the focus. The connection itself was the focus. Their merged resonances were what kept the fracture field at bay, what stabilized the reactor, and what now hid them from the hunters. The external thrumming intensified slightly, closer now. Kale felt Zephyr's form tense, the cool surface hardening almost imperceptibly. They are scanning, high frequency, searching for my unique signature. Zephyr's internal light dimmed further, becoming barely visible like a single ember in the darkness. Kale felt Zephyr drawing on the reactor's energy, blending its resonance profile with the dormant core. It was risky, pushing the limits of the bond, but necessary. He could feel the strain on Zephyr, a subtle tremor running through its form, mirrored by a faint ache in his fused arm. "Can I do anything?" he whispered, the question unnecessary as the answer was conveyed through their connection. "Hold the link, Kale. Maintain your resonance, your presence. It strengthens the blend." He focused inward, on the hum in his arm, on the connection to Zephyr, trying to keep his own erratic, human energy profile steady. It felt like centering himself in a storm, finding a core of calm amidst chaos. The minutes crawled by, each second amplified by the tension. He imagined the hunters outside, sleek ships moving through the void, their sensors sweeping the derelict station, searching for the anomaly. He could almost feel their cold, calculating intent through Zephyr's awareness. "They are withdrawing," Zephyr finally communicated, a wave of relief washing over him. Their initial scan found only the dormant core. "They will not linger here. Not yet." The crimson patterns on Zephyr's form receded, replaced by a soft, deep blue radiating calm and exhaustion. The cool surface against him softened, the pressure easing. Zephyr's internal light brightened slightly, enough to illuminate their immediate surroundings, the vast, silent chamber. "They're gone?" Kale asked, letting out a shaky breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "For now, they will search other sectors, but they know I was here. They will return." Zephyr's mental voice was weary, the integration and the camouflage, it drained me. Kale could feel it. Zephyr's energy reserves were low, and his arm, the ache was intensifying, a deep thrumming pain that felt like his very molecules were being stretched. "You are experiencing backlash," Zephyr explained, sensing his discomfort. "The sustained blend, it stresses your organic form. You require stabilization." Stabilization. Kale looked at his fused arm. It was still deeply embedded in Zephyr's core, the light swirling but with less intensity now. "How do we stabilize my core resonance? It can soothe, it can replenish if the connection is deepened." Zephyr's form shifted, moving closer, the cool surface wrapping more fully around him. "Allow the energy flow to increase. Do not resist. Let me infuse you as you infused me with the tool's frequency." Zephyr's core pulsed slowly, invitingly. The warmth in Kale's arm began to spread deliberately, not just heat now, but a complex, soothing energy like a current flowing into his body. It bypassed his suit, his skin, sinking deep into his muscles and bones. The ache in his arm lessened, replaced by a profound relaxation. It felt healing, but also deeply intimate. Zephyr was offering not just physical relief, but a total merging of their energies, a deeper connection than just the bond through the artifact. "Trust me, Kale," Zephyr's mental voice was soft, vulnerable. "Allow the integration to complete, for mutual benefit, for safety." Kale hesitated. This felt like a point of no return. Deeper integration, what would that even mean? Would he become less human? Would Zephyr become more? He looked into the swirling light of Zephyr's core, felt the gentle, insistent pull of its energy. The hunters were still out there. They needed to be strong. They needed to rely on each other. And he was already inextricably bound. He took another deep breath, letting go of his fear, his reservations. "Okay, Zephyr," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Do it." He leaned into Zephyr's form, letting the cool surface cradle him, opening himself to the influx of alien energy. The warmth surged, washing through him like a tidal wave of liquid light. It was intense, overwhelming, dissolving the tension in his muscles, the ache in his bones, the weariness in his soul. He felt Zephyr's consciousness expanding, merging with his own, a vast, ancient presence interweaving with his smaller, more turbulent human mind. He saw glimpses of Zephyr's memories swirling nebulae, the silent construction of cosmic structures, the cold, analytical faces of the architects, the terror of the fracture field, the desperate flight. And he felt Zephyr's emotions, profound loneliness, fierce determination, a fragile hope, and now a burgeoning, protective tenderness directed entirely at him. His own memories surfaced, seen through Zephyr's perspective, the warmth of a childhood home, the cold betrayal of a friend, the quiet satisfaction of fixing something broken, the gnawing ache of solitude. Their pasts, their pains, their strengths, all intertwined, understood. The physical sensation became intensely pleasurable. The energy flowing into him wasn't just soothing, it was exhilarating, vitalizing. The warmth concentrated, spreading from his arm across his chest, down his legs, radiating from his core. Zephyr's physical form pulsed against him, its structure feeling less alien, more resonant with his own. The tendrils coiled gently around him, not holding him captive but embracing him. The light within Zephyr's core intensified, swirling faster, drawing him deeper into its luminous heart. It wasn't just his arm anymore. It felt like his entire being was being drawn into Zephyr's essence, merging, becoming one. The boundary between them dissolved completely. He was within Zephyr, and Zephyr was within him. He cried out, the sound lost in the rush of energy and the symphony of their joined resonances. It wasn't pain, but the overwhelming intensity of being fully seen, fully accepted, fully connected in a way he had never experienced. He felt Zephyr's mental presence surrounding him, comforting, guiding, sharing. Yes, Kale, this is completion, resonance, unity. The words were unnecessary. He felt the truth of them in every cell of his body. He was no longer just Kale, the scavenger. He was Kale, bonded. Kale, part of Zephyr. He felt the cool surface of Zephyr's exterior against his own heated skin, the fabric of his suit somehow dissolved or bypassed by the intensity of their connection. He was held entirely within Zephyr's luminous form, wrapped in light and warmth and something that felt profoundly like love. The air in the reactor core chamber shimmered with residual energy. Zephyr's form pulsed with a steady, vibrant light, no longer dim and exhausted, but radiant with contained power. Kale's arm, no longer aching, felt like a conduit of that power, fully integrated into Zephyr's core. He was no longer standing or sitting. He was suspended within Zephyr's embrace, his body molded against the cool, smooth surface of its exterior, wrapped in the gentle coil of its tendrils. The warmth from within was still intense, but now felt perfectly balanced, a constant, comforting presence. "We are strengthened." Zephyr's mental voice resonated in his mind, clear and strong. The resonance unity. It stabilizes both forms, your organic structure. It is now optimized, and my energy reserves are replenished. Kale shifted slightly within Zephyr's embrace. He could feel his own body strangely invigorated, yet inextricably linked to the alien being. He moved his fingers, feeling Zephyr's internal currents flow around them. I feel different," he said, his voice sounding distant even to himself. "You are different, Kale. Our essences are woven. You can perceive what I perceive, and your internal landscape." He felt a gentle touch against his mind, like Zephyr softly exploring his thoughts, his memories, his emotions, not with intrusion but with a deep, respectful curiosity. He, in turn, felt Zephyr's vast, complex consciousness, its connection to the deeper energies of the cosmos, its long history. They remained there in the heart of the reactor core for a timeless period. The outside world faded, replaced by the intricate reality of their shared existence. They spoke without speaking, shared without explaining, simply were together. Zephyr showed him the echoes the fracture field had absorbed, fragments of lost civilizations, glimpses of impossible landscapes, whispers of cosmic truths. Kale shared the simple joys and sorrows of human life, the taste of real food, the feeling of rain, the loyalty of a friend, the sting of betrayal. Their bond deepened, evolving beyond necessity into something complex, tender, and fiercely protective. "They are returning," Zephyr communicated, a low thrum of warning rippling through their shared consciousness. The peaceful blue light patterns flickered, sharp lines of silver appearing among them. Their scanning is more focused this time, they suspect. The architects. Kale felt a surge of adrenaline, but it was different this time. Not fear, but a readiness to defend. They were no longer just hiding, they were a unified entity, stronger together. "We must move," Zephyr decided. "The camouflage will not hold indefinitely against their focused search. We must seek a deeper concealment, or create a diversion." Zephyr began to glide forward, drawing Kale with it. He was still enveloped within Zephyr's form, but it felt less like being carried and more like moving together, a single unit. Zephyr navigated the dark tunnels, its internal light guiding them, the patterns shifting with the alien being's thoughts and strategies. Kale felt Zephyr analyzing the station's layout, the energy conduits, the structural weaknesses, searching for an advantage. They reached a junction leading to the station's exterior docking rings. "Riskier above," Zephyr noted, "but possibilities exist. The architect's ships will be waiting." Kale could feel Zephyr's hesitation. Being exposed in the void was dangerous, but hiding passively had its limits. "Diversion," Kale said, the word forming in his mind simultaneously with Zephyr's consideration of the option. "Can we overload something? Make a big enough bang to draw them away?" "Possible," Zephyr confirmed. "The station's auxiliary power core. It is unstable. We could trigger a cascade failure, a contained detonation. It would require significant energy and precise timing." "I know this station's power grid," Kale said, remembering his scavenging roots. "I can guide you. There are access points, weak spots in the conduits. Your knowledge is invaluable." Zephyr flowed with a wave of appreciation. "Guide me, Kale. Let us show the architects that their tool is unpredictable." They moved with a new purpose, Zephyr's form flowing swiftly through the corridors, Kale's mind acting as a map, guiding the alien being through the labyrinthine station. They bypassed collapsing sections, navigated through tangled wreckage. Kale felt Zephyr's fascination with the human engineering, the crude but effective systems he understood so well. He pointed out junctions, warned of unstable sections, guided Zephyr towards the auxiliary power core. The energy within Zephyr pulsed with anticipation, a controlled buildup of power for the task ahead. They reached the auxiliary core chamber, smaller than the main reactor but filled with volatile energy conduits humming with contained power. Zephyr's light intensified, focusing on the core itself. "Here, I will interface with the conduits, draw the necessary energy. Your task, Kale, is precision. Tell me where to apply the pressure, where to break the circuit to create the cascade." Kale focused, visualizing the power flow, the intricate network of relays and conduits. He felt Zephyr's form shift, tendrils extending internally within the luminous core where he was held, preparing to interface with the station's systems. "Okay," Kale said, mentally projecting the schematics he remembered. "See that main conduit, just below the primary regulator. There's a stress point there. Apply pressure. And then, there, that secondary relay, a focused pulse precisely timed." He guided Zephyr, feeling the alien being's immense power channeled with pinpoint accuracy through the internal tendrils, interfacing with the cold, hard tech of the station. He felt the surge of energy as Zephyr began drawing power, felt the strain on the station's systems. Warning lights began to flash in the chamber, alarms screaming silently in the vacuum outside. They were exposed, vulnerable, a beacon of energy the architects would surely detect. "They sense it." Zephyr's mental voice was sharp with urgency. "Their ships are diverting, approaching rapidly." The light on Zephyr's form flared, a blinding white for a moment as it channeled the last of the necessary energy. Timing, Kale. Now. Now, Kale yelled, projecting the final sequence of pulses and pressures. He felt Zephyr execute the instructions perfectly, a symphony of energy and force applied to the core's weakest points. There was a surge, a blinding flash within the chamber, and then the sound of tearing metal and explosive decompression as the auxiliary core overloaded, not in a catastrophic, station-destroying blast, but a focused eruption directed outwards, a massive energy flare that would draw the architects like moths to a deadly flame. Zephyr's form rippled, expending the stored energy, the brilliant white light receding to a soft, deep indigo, the color of exhaustion and deep satisfaction. "It is done," Zephyr communicated, weary but triumphant. "They will be distracted. We have a window." The cool surface against Kale softened further, Zephyr collapsing slightly around him, the tendrils loosening their embrace. He felt himself begin to separate, the intense integration lessening, the boundary between his form and Zephyr's reforming. His arm remained fused in Zephyr's core, the artifact still anchored there, but the all-encompassing unity receded, leaving him feeling distinct, separate again, though still bound. He fell gently, landing on the cold metal floor of the chamber. Zephyr settled beside him, its form less defined, the light within dimming further. His arm was still connected, pulling taut, but he could feel his suit, his body distinct once more. He was Kale again, the scavenger, but fundamentally changed. The silence in the chamber was broken only by the distant groans of the damaged station and the low, steady hum of Zephyr's core where his arm was still integrated. The air still smelled of ozone and strange sweetness. He looked at Zephyr, its indigo form pulsing weakly beside him, its light just enough to see by. The tendrils lay limp on the floor. Zephyr was spent, its energy depleted by the act of creation and destruction, and he was still bound to it, his arm disappearing into its luminous core. "Zephyr," he asked, his voice hoarse, "I am here, Kale." The mental voice was weak, a whisper in his mind, the architects. They will be furious, but diverted for a time. Zephyr's form trembled slightly. "I need to rest, to replenish." And Kale needed to not have his arm stuck in an exhausted alien being while its angry creators hunted them. The conflict wasn't over, it had just entered a new phase. They had bought time at a significant cost to Zephyr, and with Kale still physically bound. His arm throbbed gently, not with pain this time, but with a dull ache of disconnection, of the intense unity receding. He needed his arm back, but Zephyr needed him bonded to be safe. The choice felt impossible. The separation. "It is risky now," Zephyr communicated, sensing his thoughts. "My core is stabilized by the artifact, and your presence to release you now. It may destabilize the containment and harm him after all that." Zephyr's concern was palpable through the bond, a genuine fear for his well-being. He looked at the dim, fragile form beside him. It had saved him from the fracture field, trusted him, bonded with him, and now lay vulnerable, having sacrificed its energy for their escape. He couldn't abandon it. Not now. Not after everything. "Okay, Zephyr," Kale said, reaching out his free hand to touch the cool, smooth surface of its form. "Okay. We stay bonded for now. We'll find somewhere else to hide, somewhere safer." He felt a wave of profound relief and gratitude wash over him through the bond. "Thank you, Kale, your loyalty. It is a new resonance, beautiful loyalty." He hadn't thought of it that way. He thought of it as necessary, and maybe, just maybe, something more. He was bound to this alien being, not just by a strange artifact, but by shared danger, mutual reliance, and an intimacy that defied understanding. He was part of Zephyr now, and Zephyr was part of him. They would face whatever came next together. He settled back against the cold metal floor, Zephyr's form pressing close beside him, providing what little warmth it could spare. His arm remained within the luminous core, a constant reminder of their improbable, unbreakable connection. The distant sounds of the damaged station were a stark contrast to the quiet intensity of their shared moment. Two disparate beings bound together in the heart of a dying machine, waiting for the next threat. They couldn't stay in the auxiliary core chamber. The energy signature, though fatting, might still draw unwanted attention. Zephyr, though weak, began to flow slowly, pulling Kale, whose arm was still integrated, along with it. They needed to find a place where the ambient energy levels were low, where the structural integrity was sound enough to provide physical cover, and where they might find resources to help Zephyr recover. Kale, navigating mentally through his memory of the station's layout, guided Zephyr towards the older, decommissioned sections. These areas were buried deep within the station's original structure, far from the newer, more volatile systems. They were dark, cold, and largely forgotten. Perfect. The journey was slow and arduous. Zephyr's movements were sluggish, its light dim. Kale, still physically joined, felt Zephyr's exhaustion like his own, a bone-deep weariness that settled over him. He shuffled alongside, his suit heavy, his arm feeling both weightless and cumbersome within Zephyr's core. They passed through sections ravaged by time and neglect, corridors choked with debris, chambers filled with silent, rusting machinery. Kale's lamp beam cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing the decay, the skeletal remains of a different era. This place, it feels ancient. Zephyr's mental voice was a faint hum in his mind, filled with echoes of purpose, now lost. Yeah, Kale murmured, his voice rough. Lots of lost purpose out here on the fringe, people, places, machines. He felt Zephyr's presence shift slightly, a wave of empathy washing over him through the bond. Like you, Kale, do you feel lost? The directness of the question startled him, even though he knew Zephyr could perceive his internal landscape. He hesitated, then finally admitted, sometimes. Most of the time, maybe, just drifting. Zephyr pressed closer, a comforting weight against his side. You are not drifting now, you are anchored. They found a suitable chamber deep within the oldest section. It was small, reinforced, and miraculously free of significant damage. It seemed to have been a maintenance storage area, though the shelves were bare, the equipment long gone. The air was stagnant, thick with the smell of old lubricants and dust, but it felt safe, quiet. Here, Zephyr communicated, flowing towards the center of the room. We can settle here and rest. Zephyr's form relaxed, flowing outward slightly, forming a low, glowing pool on the floor. Kale knelt beside it, his arm still extending into the heart of the luminescence. He carefully removed his helmet, letting the stale air fill his lungs. It was better than the recycled air of his suit. How long will it take you to recover? Kale asked, watching the dim light pulse weakly. Time is fluid in my perception, Zephyr responded. Days, perhaps, cycles of rest and resonance, and I require energy, not like the reactor, but life energy. Zephyr's mental presence was hesitant, vulnerable. Organic energy. Kale froze. Organic energy? You mean food, like my emergency rations? He gestured vaguely to the small pack on his belt. Zephyr projected an image into his mind, not food, but a flow of vibrant biological energy, warm and vital. Direct transfer, Kale, through the bond. It is the most efficient source for my form, direct transfer of his life energy. Kale felt a prickle of alarm. That sounded draining, potentially dangerous. How? How much? What would it do to me? A portion. Enough to initiate the healing cycle. It will weary you, significantly, but not deplete you, not entirely. Zephyr's light pulsed with a deep need, a silent plea that went beyond words. Kale looked at his arm, still integrated. He was already bound. Zephyr needed him to recover, and he needed Zephyr strong to face the architects again. He sighed, a sound of resignation and reluctant acceptance. All right, he said softly. Do it, take what you need. He felt Zephyr's energy focus on his arm, the warmth intensifying, but this time it felt different, like a gentle drawing sensation, pulling something out of him. A profound weariness settled over him instantly, heavy and demanding. His vision blurred for a moment. He felt his strength drain away, his muscles protesting. But woven into the draining sensation was Zephyr's presence, radiating a wave of pure, focused energy directed towards its own core, initiating a complex process of repair and regeneration. He felt a surge of Zephyr's gratitude, overwhelming in its intensity. Thank you, Kale. You are giving of yourself, beyond expectation. Kale slumped back against the wall, too tired to even lie down properly. The light in Zephyr's core brightened slightly, a small, steady flame in the darkness. The draining stopped, leaving him feeling weak and shaky but strangely peaceful. Zephyr was beginning to recover. He was still bound, his arm a link between his weary body and the slowly regenerating alien being. The silence returned, broken only by the faint hum of Zephyr's core and Kale's own ragged breathing. He closed his eyes, letting sleep claim him, trusting the alien being he was fused to keep him safe in the darkness. He awoke slowly, the weariness still lingering but less debilitating. The first thing he noticed was the absence of the cool, smooth pressure against his side. He opened his eyes. Zephyr's light was still present, but it had shifted. It was still a pool on the floor, but its form was more defined, the internal light pulsing with a healthier rhythm. And his arm was no longer immersed in the luminous core. It lay beside him on the floor, free. He stared at it, flexing his fingers. It felt normal, still a bit tingly but whole, unfused. He slowly pushed himself up, the weariness making his movements stiff. Zephyr's form pulsed, the light patterns shifting to a soft, welcoming gold and green. "You are awake, Kale." The mental voice was stronger, clearer, vibrant with recovered energy. "I released the bond when my regeneration reached a stable point. Separation was necessary for you to fully recover. Necessary." Kale felt a strange pang of disappointment. No, not disappointment, something else. A sense of loss. The constant, intimate connection was gone. You let go," Kale said, looking at Zephyr. "You didn't have to, you could have kept me bound, kept drawing energy." The bond was mutually beneficial initially, Zephyr explained, its light patterns radiating honesty. But it was also a prison for both of us. True strength comes from choice, not necessity, and I would not be a captor, Kale, not after what you gave me. Zephyr's light flowed, shaping itself into a more distinct form. Still alien, still luminous, but with a clearer central mass and more controlled tendrils. It felt like Zephyr was presenting itself more fully, no longer just an urgent presence or a fragile pool of light, but a being with defined structure and intent. Kale slowly stood, feeling his body protest the movement. He looked at Zephyr, this glowing alien being that had been fused to him for what felt like an eternity. He had given it his energy, his knowledge, his trust, and it had given him what? Survival, a connection he hadn't known he craved, and now freedom. "So," Kale said, stuffing his helmet under his arm. "What now? They're still out there." "They are," Zephyr confirmed, its light sharpening, adopting a determined hue. "But I am stronger now, and we are no longer hidden by proximity. We must evade and find a place of true refuge." Zephyr's form flowed towards the chamber entrance, a place where the architects cannot reach, somewhere wild, untamed. "Wild and untamed, huh?" Kale managed a weak smirk. "Sounds like my kind of place." He started to follow, then stopped. Zephyr paused, its form pulsing with a silent question. Kale reached for his utility belt, the artifact. It was still, wherever it was within Zephyr. "The tool," he asked. "It is integrated permanently into my core," Zephyr explained. "Its frequency is now my fundamental anchor. I cannot release it. It is part of me, part of Zephyr." Just as Kale felt a part of Zephyr, even now unbound. "I guess I don't get it back," Kale said. "It was just a piece of tech, useless to him, really." But he felt a weird sense of attachment to it, the object that had brought them together. "No, Kale, you do not get the tool back, but you are not without compensation." Zephyr's light patterns shifted, flowing with a warm, intimate energy, the resonance unity. It left residual effects within you, a connection to the deeper frequencies, to the flow of energy. Kale frowned. "Residual effects. Like powers." "Not powers as your kind understands them," Zephyr corrected gently. "A sensitivity to resonance, to life energy. You may find you perceive the world differently now." He already did. He saw Zephyr's light, felt its presence, understood its unspoken language in a way he never could have before. Zephyr waited by the entrance, its luminous form a beacon in the darkness. Kale looked around the empty chamber, then back at the alien being. He was free, his arm his own again. He could walk away, go back to scavenging, drifting, being alone, but the thought felt empty. He looked at Zephyr, felt the quiet pull of their bond, the resonance that still echoed within him. This alien wasn't just a strange occurrence or a means to survival. It was Zephyr. And he felt a fierce, protective instinct towards it, a connection that went deeper than flesh or logic. "All right, Zephyr," Kale said, pushing off the wall. "Lead the way. Let's find this untamed place." He walked towards the alien being, not as a captive or a conduit, but as a companion. As he approached, Zephyr's light patterns flowed outwards, surrounding him in a gentle, warm glow, a silent welcome, a shared future beckoning in the darkness of the derelict station. He stepped into the light, leaving the empty chamber behind. Zephyr flowed alongside him, its form adjusting to his pace, a comfortable, familiar presence. The architects were still out there. The universe was still dangerous, but for the first time in a long time, Kale didn't feel lost. He had found an anchor, not just in Zephyr's core, but in the bond they had forged. They emerged from the deep, silent sections of the station into corridors closer to the exterior. Kale felt the shift in the ambient energy, the faint hum of residual power from the detonated auxiliary core, the distant thrumming of the architect's ships, still searching but further away now, drawn off by the diversion. Zephyr's light dimmed slightly as they neared the exterior, minimizing their visibility. "The nearest jump point is unstable," Zephyr communicated mentally as they reached the station's primary launch bay, a vast, empty space with rows of rusting launch tubes, but it is less guarded. Kale scanned the bay. It was mostly intact, but the control systems looked dead. "Got a ship in mind?" he asked wryly. "Yours," Zephyr replied instantly. "It is. Small, inconspicuous, suitable for navigating unstable fields. Kale's ship, the Stardust Drifter." It was a beat-up, reliable vessel, his home and his livelihood. It was docked in one of the auxiliary bays, a short trek across the station. "All right," Kale said, a surge of affection for his old ship rising in him. "Let's go get her." They moved quickly across the launch bay floor, Zephyr flowing silently beside him. He felt the alien being's awareness extending, sensing the subtle shifts in external energy, the positions of the architect's ships in orbit. They were cautious, moving through shadow, using Kale's knowledge of the station's less-used pathways. They reached his auxiliary bay. The door was sealed, power dead. "Power's out," Kale stated the obvious. "I can provide power," Zephyr offered, temporarily, to cycle the door, and bring your ship systems online. Zephyr flowed towards the door control panel, its tendrils extending, interfacing with the dead circuitry. A low hum started, the control panel lights flickering on, powered by Zephyr's internal energy. The heavy bay door groaned open, revealing the Stardust Drifter sitting in the bay, a familiar, comforting sight. Kale felt a rush of relief and anticipation. His ship, their escape. He hurried inside, the familiar scent of ozone, stale coffee, and engine grease filling his senses. Zephyr flowed in after him, its light illuminating the cramped interior. "She is simple," Zephyr observed, its light patterns flowing with curiosity, "but functional." "She gets the job done," Kale said, heading for the cockpit. "Might not be pretty, but she's mine." He dropped into the pilot's seat, the worn leather molding to his body. Zephyr flowed into the co-pilot's station, its form adjusting to fit the confined space, its light providing soft illumination. "We need power to the engines," Zephyr stated, "and navigation. The jump requires precise calculation through the instability." "I can handle navigation," Kale said, flicking switches, bringing the ship's dormant systems online. Zephyr interfaced with the main power conduit near the cockpit. The ship hummed to life, a deep, resonant vibration that Kale felt not just through the deck plates but through the bond with Zephyr. It was a strange sensation, his ship's power flowing through the alien being fused with the artifact, into his own awareness. "I can provide the necessary power surge for the jump," Zephyr offered, "but it will require a coordinated effort and your continued connection." "My connection," Kale repeated, looking at the space where his arm had been bonded. He didn't need to be physically fused anymore, but the underlying energetic link remained, a constant hum in his awareness. He understood now. Zephyr's power flowed through the artifact within its core, and that power needed his resonance, his focus, his presence to be guided effectively. He was the catalyst, the anchor, even unbound. "All right," he said, gripping the controls. "Tell me what you need." Zephyr's light intensified slightly. "Focus, Kale, on the destination, on the stable point beyond the field. Project your intent through the link." Kale closed his eyes for a moment, picturing the stars on the other side of the unstable jump point, a mental image of safety, of distance from the architects. He felt the familiar tingle in his arm, a resurgence of the energy flow, connecting him directly to Zephyr's core and the power being channeled. "Now," Zephyr urged, "engage the jump drive." Kale slammed the ignition sequence. The ship system screamed, charging the jump drive with an unnatural speed, powered by Zephyr's directed energy. The jump point flared outside the cockpit viewport, a swirling vortex of chaotic energy. Kale held the controls steady, his gaze fixed on the instability, his mind focused on the stable point beyond, guided by Zephyr's silent direction through their bond. The ship lurched, throwing him back in his seat. He felt the fracture field buffet them, a sickening distortion of reality, but Zephyr's power, anchored by the artifact and his own resonance, held the ship together, carving a path through the chaos. There was a final, violent shudder and then silence. The viewport cleared. They were in empty space. Behind them, the derelict station was a distant speck. Around them, stars were sharp and clear, no longer distorted by the fracture field. They had made it. Kale slumped in his seat, letting out a long breath. Zephyr's light softened, flowing with relief. "We are safe, Kale, for now." "Yeah," Kale whispered, running a hand through his hair. "Safe." He looked at Zephyr, its form radiant in the soft cabin light. It had saved him again, and he had saved it. They were a team, bound by something stranger and stronger than metal or gravity. "The untamed place," Zephyr prompted, its mental voice filled with anticipation. "Where do we go now?" Kale smiled, a genuine, relaxed smile that felt alien on his face after years of cynicism. He had his ship back, he had his arm back, and he had something he never expected to find in the darkness of the fringe. "Somewhere far from here," he said, inputting coordinates into the navigation system. "Somewhere quiet, somewhere we can figure things out." He felt Zephyr's presence settle beside him, a warm, comforting weight in the co-pilot's seat. The future was uncertain. The architects were still out there, but they would face it together. The Stardust drifter hummed, settling into sublight speed, carrying its two improbable passengers towards a new beginning. The light patterns on Zephyr's form shifted, swirling into intricate, overlapping designs of gold, green, and a deep, vibrant violet that spoke of contentment, connection, and a future yet unwritten. Kale felt the warmth of its presence beside him, no longer just an alien entity needing a tool, but a partner, a confidant, something precious found in the void. His hand rested on the console, vibrating faintly with the echo of their shared power, a physical reminder of the bond that ran deeper than skin, deeper than space itself.